Have you ever gone to the gallery in The Sims 4 thinking that you want to do a shell challenge, but you actually have to follow the rules and then you do it at the last minute and you have to think about, wait, I actually have to follow the rules of the shell challenge. And so today, besties, I have come to the realization that I have to actually follow my own rules for my own shell challenge. And let me tell you, it was worth it, it was fun, and I'd do it again. So when I was making this shell challenge a couple weeks ago on stream, I was trying to figure out the best possible way to make it challenging, fun, but also equally inspiring because someone suggested in my Discord to make a shell challenge inspired by the game Unpacking that we played. And let me tell you, I seriously love the game Unpacking. It's chill, it's fun, it's storytelling, and it's just equally fun to have in the background, like just for the music alone. And I'll link the website down below if you want to check out Unpacking for yourself. Like it's on the Switch, your Xbox, Game Pass, PlayStation. It's also on PC, on Steam. Like I highly recommend the game Unpacking if you want another like a chill based fun game that has a story involved because you're following along with this character. And this character has different moments in their life where they're either moving or moving out of a certain location, and you're unpacking their boxes of all their stuff they've accumulated over the past couple of years. And what's so interesting about it, there's no dialogue of any kind. And you're basically unpacking this person's life, and the stuff that they have in their boxes really tell a story. Like they have your childhood photos, their childhood toys. You know, they've gone to university, they get married, they have a kid, and it's like it's so like fun to play. I don't want to spoil too much of the game if you haven't played it, but if you have played it, I think we all can attest that this game is highly so like good and highly recommended. That I hope to one day they make a second Unpacking game because something that I would say about this game that it's different. It's different from another game I've ever played before. Like the game Spiritfarer I've played before on stream and it was equally entertaining and therapeutic to play. And games that tell story without telling too much are my thing because I like to have the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen next or having some dialogue kind of in my ear of telling me something's going to happen next. This is what you do next. I like the unknowing, if you can't tell. And I think when it comes to storytelling, I try my best to do it in The Sims in some similar way, if that makes sense. And when I was like kind of doing my own rendition of the shell challenge, was all the stuff in the trailer that you see in this video. The Sims that live here is a family of like 4 or 5, and they're trying to not accumulate a bunch of stuff. And so my idea was thinking the Sim family had unpacked all their stuff from their old house and bought a brand new built home for themselves. That they had all this stuff in a trailer, and they basically had to unpack all their old stuff into their new home and make it theirs. And so I try to make it make sense to the point where it was something that I wanted to have for me because I moved into a new apartment a couple months ago and it was completely empty. It was brand spanking new. No one else had lived in it. And I basically had to furnish my apartment from my old stuff from my parents' house in my own bedroom and office and make it my own. And it's always fun to be able to kind of unpack stuff from an old location that you lived in and you want to be able to make that new location yours and tell a story with it, with the objects you owned previously, if that makes any sense. Like if you moved, you know what I mean. And I guess they always say a house is not a home unless you have a sense of story with it, if that makes sense. I don't know, but I definitely had a lot of fun with making this and seeing the different ways I can make it different because normally I would make family homes that are so cluttered and so crazy, but even though they do have a story, I think that I want to make sure that the story makes sense. And so it's a family home fit for 4 Sims. They're the parents and they have the 2, actually no, it's a family of 5. Yeah, I forgot. It's a family of 5. It's a toddler, a kid, a teen, and then there's the 2 parents. And the parents are actually a same-sex couple. So they are, they've been married for a very long time and they had a kid from a previous marriage, but then they brought in 2 other kids that they adopted, a toddler and a kid. And I think it's like so freaking cool that there are like these families that are still doing the things that they wanted to do. They've always had this idea and the realization of thinking, what am I going to do in my next years of life? And I've always felt that certain Sims have this like period in their life where they don't know of what's going to happen next, like the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen next with their family, where they're going to move to, where they're going to live, who are they going to meet, who are their neighbors. And I like to think of my Sims as real people sometimes, and I always want to make sure they have like the best possible life possible, where I want to set them up for success instead of failure. And I always strive for my Sims to have a way where they can work for themselves or work for somebody else, but equally have a little side job that they can eventually do on their own. And so the parents actually is one's a lawyer and one is a doctor. And I'm going to be making a criticism video about these Sims and going more in depth with like their story, of course. But I want to give you like the more of the synopsis of like who these Sims are and what they do and why they live in Newcrest, basically. And like I said, one's a doctor, one's a lawyer. And this couple met in university. And that's like how they kind of met. Two different tracks of life, two different degree paths. And I don't know how they came across, but they met. And I guess one person like introduced each other to them when they were living in the same dorm room because they just didn't know who they were. And actually, what was interesting is that the lawyer Sim actually was a year younger, but also like they were not in like the same like track, like the semester, year, like sophomore, junior, senior, like that track. Like one was a junior, one was a senior in university. And so they didn't really align very well. Their paths didn't cross as much. They didn't really see each other that much, even though they did live in the same dorm room. Their hours were so different and spread across in many different ways. So luckily at the end of like their graduation for the doctor, they were definitely able to kind of see each other again. And I was very happy that they met. And I'm glad that they kind of got together over the past couple of years. And it was really nice to see them kind of grow a family from nothing to something and made it happen for themselves and setting their life and their family up for success. And the fact that they are now doing things they've always wanted to do makes me very happy. Now, for the teenager, like I said, the teenager is from another marriage and they came into this life of thinking that, oh, they're going to hate their family. They're not going to get along. But in retrospect, they actually do. And the teenager is bisexual. They're only 15 years old and they are kind of on their way to like getting into early admission into university because all their life they've always like studied about, technology, art, communications. They really went into in the pain of thinking they want to succeed in the best possible way. And so they're thinking of going into university in the arts track. And they love art, they love technology, but they really love the creative side of art. And so they're going to go into art, and that's what they're going to do. And I think they're going to do well in their life. But then as for the kids, though, the kid and the toddler, but mainly the kid, I kid you not, this kid is so smart and so good at what they do that they want to achieve literally everything, like everything. And I think we've always had like those kids and in ourselves that they had a career track of everything. So this kid wants to be a doctor, artist, singer, songwriter, and actor one day in their life. And so not right now in this like parents' bedroom, but you'll see in like the next clip of the video. But the kid, I have to say, was a jack of all trades. They adopted the kid out of an orphanage so long ago, and this kid's only like 8 years old. And the kid was so head in life that they've always wanted to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve. And I think it's like really cool that this kid already had an idea of what they wanted and how they were going to get there. And so personally, I was very pleased with how they were going to do all of this: acting, singing, songwriting, doctor. Like it was just like, how are you doing this and you're only 8 years old? But I was like, you got a good head on your shoulders and you had a really good support system at the orphanage. Like surprisingly enough, the orphanage that they stayed at the foster home, not orphanage, foster home, sorry. The foster home that they stayed at, the family that they lived with were actually like singer-songwriters on top of being foster parents. And I think one of the teenagers that lived in there were like some type of like actor or wanted to be like an actor, so they were like in the drama club as an after school activity, so they kind of got some inspo from that. But they also wanted to be a doctor because the previous teen that lived in that home was going to be a doctor, and they came back as a doctor, like, you'll see how they're doing, such and like, keeping up with the family and everything. And so they basically were like getting all the inspo from literally every single kid that was in that foster home. And I think that, hey, if you can dream it and believe it, is going to happen eventually. And honestly, these kids, wow, the kids of the future. Teach them while they're young. The fact that this kid was exposed to all of this like greatness and all the amazing people in their lives from the foster home, and now they had a really good head on the shoulders. And the fact that they wanted to be a doctor, and the fact that the people that adopted them, one of them had to be a doctor, was like, wow, best of both worlds. They're getting what they wanted. It's getting what they needed. So I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. I'm just so happy to see like where they go next in their life. But as for the toddler was adopted in the same home. So the kid and the toddler were adopted at the same time. One was 8, or actually, yeah, one was 8 and one was 3. And I was lucky enough to actually get them both, which is very surprising. So I wasn't thinking that they would get them both, but they did. And I was very pleased to see, both of them. They weren't really brother and sister, like they're not related. But I think that when they first kind of met, they weren't expecting to kind of get 2 and 1, and both equally having both of them equally being both successful in like how old they are, but also how knowledgeable they are. Because the fact that 3-year-old is already potty trained and knows how to walk and talk is so good. And so they didn't have to do too much when they adopted the toddler, but they do want to make sure the toddler is exposed to good measures of life and good measures of that will succeed both in their endeavors, but also in everyday life and hopefully the future for them as well. And I'm always a person who always thinks for the best of my Sims and hopefully that they do good in life. And I always say spread positivity and kindness wherever you are in the world, because kindness can go a very long way when you really think about it. Like when you're kind to somebody else, they'll be kind to you. You show kindness, you get kindness. That's my motto. Show kindness, you get kindness. Period. But honestly, at the end of the day, these kids have a very good life, and you'll definitely be seeing them in a Creative Sim video at some point in the future. And I think I might put them in my save file, actually, because I do like what I'm saying right now for their story. And I just like, I don't know, I just get really excited for Sims and excited to see where their life takes them in the future and how I'm going to do it. But overall, I think we should go ahead and go into the real-time tour. But I have to say, when I was doing this shell challenge, I had a lot of fun with it because the landscaping is my ultimate favorite thing to do. But I also love debug, so I added a bunch of like debug mushrooms, mailboxes, debug plants, signage, bikes, a telephone pole. I don't know why I have this here, but it looked nice, so I left it in. But especially like adding this little nook cranny over here with a bee box and some chairs and a cooler box and some plant pots and some seeds to plant in your plant pot. So I thought it was a nice addition. Plus, because we didn't have a big backyard, and I thought, put everything in the front and call it a day. And so that's what I did. But for the front patio, I do think that I didn't do the best with it because I wasn't really thinking of what I wanted at the first time around. But the second time around, I kind of knew. But then for the inside, I do have to say, with all the required objects in the trailer that we had, and of course, if you had seen the stuff in the beginning of the video, that stuff was technically there to put in the build. But if you want to replace something with a different one, you could. And so I think that the way it worked in my favor, I did it justice, I guess. And personally, there weren't really a lot of objects because everything in that trailer was base game. So I was trying to add in different objects from different packs and see if I can make it work. And I think I did okay. But for the living room, I had so much trouble with because if you saw in the video, I was struggling to figure out how I was going to put the fireplace near like the chimney area and where the chairs and the couch was going to be placed. It was just a hot mess, but I think at the end of the day, I made it work because I put the fireplace here and then I just kind of squeeze in a bookshelf here. So when you look at the house, I didn't mess up the chimney. It was just there intentionally. They just broke down their wall and put a bookshelf there and called it a day. But hey, families do what they want to do. It's their house. They can do what they want. Maybe. We'll have to see. But they do own a cat. So I did add a bunch of like cat related things like a cat scratching post and a litter box in the downstairs bathroom. And the kitchen and the dining room was the most awkwardest thing I've ever done in my entire life because one, it's at a diagonal. Well, this part right here is separating the two. But then also, I just didn't know what I wanted. So I think I just kind of placed down some random objects and hope for the best that it just turned out well. And I think I did it okay. I think I did it okay. I had some good thoughts in my mind for the dining room and especially where I wanted to place certain like counters and islands and also the washer and dryer for your laundry because they didn't have their own laundry room. So I squeezed it in a corner for the end results. But for the office, I had a lot of fun with this one. It's literally a square. The office is a legit square. And I think that it's like a office slash pet room slash therapist room slash multi-purpose room. But for this bedroom right here, it was very small. It's literally the same size as the office downstairs, but a little bit smaller. I would say the sim is bisexual because the bisexual pride flag, which I love. And they are a painter who loves to knit and also doesn't really accumulate a lot of stuff because one, they're a teenager, and two, they're not going to be here for a very long time, so they were going to skedaddle out in 5 months and go off to uni for painting in the art career. But then for the master bedroom, again, awkwardly shaped, awkwardly placed, didn't know what I wanted, but I think I did it okay. I could have added another plant over here, like in the corner, like put another plant right here. I could have done that and making sure like this bed was fitting the theme of like the green and the brown and the white and like the tan and a little bit of a gray, but also kind of adding into the fact that there are two baby Yodas in this bedroom, a smaller one and a slightly normal sized big baby Yoda. And you know what? I just realized that there are two pets that live in this house. So I realized I put a pet bed upstairs and then one downstairs. So your pets kind of have like the best of both worlds when you really think about it when living in this home. So they can do whatever they want and whenever they please. And basically the cats own this house, not the actual Sims. The Sims don't own anything. The cats do. So for the kids' bedroom, I had a lot of fun with this one because I used a bunk bed, but I swapped out the bottom bunk with a toddler bed by combining in some knickknacks and paddywhacks from Dream Home Decorator and also adding in a music award because I feel like that the kid who lives in this bedroom is like a singer-songwriter. I'm not sure if they're gonna be maybe a kid or a teenager, but I feel like they have some type of like musical gene in their body that they would love to have an award someday. So I thought, some inspiration. The kid wants to be a musical genius, so added the music award in their bedroom. But they also do love to draw. They want to be a doctor one day, maybe. They love to talk about things about life and the pursuit of happiness, so I added in a mirror in here. And so like I said, they love to draw. As for the backyard, I have to say, even though I was thinking of putting it to a bigger lot, I'm glad I didn't because I wanted to make sure that this family had a bunch of stuff without having a bunch of stuff. Because one, they do not need a bigger backyard, and two, they do not need a pool. So I thought, they need a grill, a nice little sitting area back outside, 2 recycling bins, but also 2 little planter pots, just like the ones in the front yard. And so they can work with what they have, and hopefully it lasts them for a long time, and we can only hope for the best that it does. But either way, as always, I do hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below, as always, of what you thought of this build, but especially, are you looking forward to the next shell challenge. I promise the next one will not be as difficult as this one, but I promise you the next one will be definitely very interesting and also low-key kind of fun. But overall, like I said, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!